All right, today's lesson number 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. A problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize that it has been solved. Isn't that the truth? This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Interesting, isn't it? We're often making problems into something else, so we can't actually solve the root core problem. So we have all these symptomatic problems, but you have to get to the root cause problem in order to change it. And if you ask people what their problem is, very few people are going to answer separation. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems. Yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he's given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. That is the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. See, we think the problem is I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough education, or I don't have a partner, or people don't like me, or I weigh too much, or I was abused as a child, or all these different things that we sort of pile on as what our problems are. And none of them are root cause problems. They're all symptomatic. And it wasn't until I read this book that I realized this was the problem. But I'm very much a root cause person. So even in my job, I always want to get to the real problem that's causing all the other symptomatic problems. And if I'm aware if you don't solve that one problem, then you're just going to continue to have symptomatic problems. You can band-aid things all day, but like, let's fix the core problem. So when I read this, it cracked me up, and I didn't realize that the core problem in spirituality was separation. But this makes it pretty clear. You have the answer, right? But you are still uncertain about the problem. Is a long series of different problems seems to confront you. And as one is settled, the next one and the next arise. Isn't that frustrating? There seems to be no end to them. There's no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. The world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate and failure is inevitable. And isn't that where everybody gets to, right? There's just nothing I can do about my problems or my life. No one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels in such varying forms and with such varied content that they confront you with an impossible situation. Like the government shutdown today that's supposed to happen, right? None of us can do anything to solve that, but it can cause people a lot of stress. It's things like that that are fascinating to think about, are great examples to think about for this. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard them. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you've resolved the previous ones. Oh, I got a flat tire. Others remained unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you from time to time, only to be hidden again, but still unsolved, like a large variety of addictions. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem and therefore not to let it be resolved. I find it such a relief that all the problems are connected and there's one solution. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. And you would use the means because you recognize the problem. I feel like this is where Abraham comes in so strongly with an inner being and saying, you know, as long as you get happy and get connected to your inner being, it's a fourth dimensional being. It knows where you need to be, who you need to talk to, where you need to go. And that in and of itself is a conversation about eliminating separation, because then you're going to be connected to your non-physical side, which is the Holy Spirit or your inner being or whatever you want to call it, that can guide you through the physical world to everything that you need. You don't need to figure out every single detail. When I put it in that context, I should say, it makes it clearer to me why this would solve all my problems. In our longer practice periods today, we will ask what the problem is and what is the answer to it. We will not assume that we already know. We will try to free our minds of the many different kinds of problems we think we have. We will try to realize that we have only one problem, which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is and wait for the answer. We will be told. Then we will ask for the solution to it, and we will be told. The exercises for today will be successful to the extent to which you do not insist on defining the problem. Right? Once we define the problem, we've created it, and we can't hear the solution because we're not in the vicinity of the solution because we're focusing on the wrong problem. Perhaps you will not succeed in letting all your preconceived notions go, but that is not necessary. Let me rephrase that. When you're focusing on the problem, you can't be in the vicinity of the vibrational answer or the solution. So here it's asking you to stop focusing on the problem so the Holy Spirit can bring you the solution. All that is necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of your version of what your problems are. You are trying to recognize that you've been given the answer by recognizing the problem so that the problem and the answer can be brought together and you can be at peace. See, when we're poking around in a problem, we're asking and it is given. So you're poking around in a problem and you're asking, the solution's there for you, the answer. But you got to get off of focusing on the problem and get towards feeling happier or not thinking at all, which meditation helps with. And then the Holy Spirit, your inner being, can bring you the answer. So we do need to, I guess that's part of this lesson, we're asking, what is my problem? And then what is the solution? The shorter practice periods for today will not be set by time, but by need. You will see many problems today, each one calling for an answer. Our efforts will be directed towards recognizing that there is only one problem and one answer. In this recognition are all problems resolved. In this recognition, there is peace. Be not deceived by the form of problems today. Whenever any difficulty seems to rise, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so that it can be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what the problem is. If possible, close your eyes for a moment and ask what it is. You'll be heard and you will be answered. The better you feel on this day asking for the solution, the quicker it will come to you too. So trust, faith, positivity, and then asking and letting the answer be given to us. It's exciting. I love solving problems. I love the idea of solving problems, and I love the idea of the solution being something other than what I think the solution is, because what I think is the solution is too complicated to be achieved. So it actually has a lot more hope in it for me. I hope you find hope in it as well. Have a blessed day. Let's recognize the problem so that it can be solved.